right, welcome to crafting unique AI-driven images and product images. First, I want to ask, or you can enter the chat, how many of you guys have heard of Euphorics? I have been following them for a number of years since the beginning, before Bella Hadid joined the brand. I've always loved their brand identity, visual elements, and I've talked to so many other creatives or other brands always put their visual on their mood board as inspirations. Since I've started the AI-driven image method, I have always used them as a brand, as a benchmark. I thought if I could create or craft visuals that represents their brand and looks cohesive with their brand identity, and then that it will be a success. So right here, we can see 5 different images. There are some photographs, there are some AI-driven methods. I have created visuals. Most of the people joining this call workshop probably have seen some of my work and images before, so I'm not gonna play the guessing game with you because you probably already seen some of these images. But basically, we have image 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And out of 5 of these images, there are 3 images that AI-driven methods, and 2 of the images are photographed by Euphorics' photographer. So number 1 is a photograph by the photographer. And then number 2 and 3 and 4 are the images I have generated. And this is one of the newer images I did yesterday before this workshop. And I was pretty satisfied with the finger, though there are some minor issues I can further tweak. So with that being said, I feel like there are numbers of people on the line feel like, oh, jobs are gone because of generative AI everywhere. But I'd rather to think the only way to keep AI from taking your job or our job is to use AI to do our job better. So today's agenda, I wanted to demonstrate how to apply responsible usage for AI, capabilities and limitation of AI. That's very important. Practical use cases for your creative team, for your brand. Some case studies, some are good case studies, some are good use cases, some are bad use cases. And then finally, my framework for crafting AI-driven images. Uncle Ben once said, remember, with a great power comes great responsibility, but I say with great power comes with even greater responsibility. Then that's really true within AI, that we all need to utilize this powerful technology responsibly, ethically, and considerably. So guideline for the responsible creations. This is a guideline I personally came up with that I think is very comprehensive for a lot of the people, either your creatives, your agencies, your brand, or your AI founder to consider follow through. So first, the copyright awareness. When you are uploading images to one of the AI image generation systems, make sure you have appropriate copyright permissions. If you need to use reference images, you consider utilizing personal images or generating additional new images when using AI, when using image to generate other images. Some ethical usage issues, if you are using generated image to reference, uploading into these AI systems to generating other images, make sure that is adhere with the ethical usage or responsible usage. We have talked about it before. Respect IP rights, avoid naming artists, meaning don't say create XYZ in the style of so-and-so's artist's name, and avoid using their works without their consent. Unless you're doing a collaboration, then this artist is fully aware of what we're doing, and that's when you're having proper consent, and that's where you can do a naming artist or whatever the artist is agreed with. And this is a new addition. Label AI-generated content clearly. This is specifically for brands or even just the creators who are leveraging this technology and assisting you to create content. Make sure you be transparent and clearly communicate with your audience and customers in all your communication channels, social media, newsletters, or written like prints. If it's AI assisted or fully AI generated content, make sure you have clear labeling on that piece of content. This is also a new addition, implementing documentation of frameworks. This means documenting like your workflows and how you're leveraging AI, how you utilize AI, how did you get from A to B, considering file, considering organizing some sort of a folder, either that's natively inside of Midjourney, or you can do your own folder organizations, and then thinking about how to save your text prompt, or if you can easily access some of your text prompt, and also thinking about what are your source images, because I have been in a conversation with some major retail groups and all their legal team have suggested if they are working with a third-party agency or creators, they are starting requesting some of these documentations, meaning like how you exactly generated the images, what are the source images you're using to reference, what are the text prompts. So make sure you have all these documented. Ensure accountability in AI created content. This means attribute all the AI assisted creation to a responsible individual that will uphold accountability and ethical standards. Meaning, for example, there are people saying, oh, we can't really utilize AI because AI hallucinate, AI doesn't have 100% accuracy, the AI lies, this and that. So therefore, we can't really use it, but human generated content also is not 100% accurate. So my way to solve this problem is if you choosing to use it in your organizations or into your workflows, and make sure you assign a certain person's name with that piece of content or with that parts of the process. So that way you can always keep that person accountable for the output that AI generated, because we are using approach called a human in the loop approach when it comes to AI. So some capabilities and limitation of generated AI. Understanding what AI can and cannot do is critical, especially what AI cannot do, because that directly related what kind of use case is a smart use case for us to use and leveraging generative AI. Some limitations, and this limitation is designed or focus on AI generated visuals. Think the image content and the video content. So obviously most of people or most of us know AI generally struggles generating human body parts, especially hands and teeth. And sometimes AI generate extra legs and arms as well. AI also struggles with generating texts. That mean like a label or signage instead of your images. Normally AI struggle to generating the correct languages. They always give you some sort of gibberish. And AI also struggles generating consistent characters and frames. So this is particularly true in video generations, although if some of you may have seen Sora has been really great with generating consistent frames and characters in up to 1 minute long video. But this is still a struggle overall. Although the technology evolves really fast, eventually this is going to be less and less the problem. And in fact, all of these is going to be less and less the problem. But at the moment, these are still some of the limitations and challenges AI facing. AI also struggles with generating exactly the same product in images. I've got a lot of people ask me, hey, Claire, how do you generate all these AI-driven product images within Midjourney? The short answer is you can't do that because Midjourney is not natively designed for product image generations. So if you are trying to do something only within Midjourney for your product, and then that's not going to work because it's going to change your product shapes and it's going to generate gibberish on your packaging, so on and so forth. And lastly, AI requires a human in the loop approach, just means a human needs to be involved with the whole process for generating content. Human needs to verify if the AI output is accurate and correct. Although this is not necessarily a limitation per se, but I put it here because we're not entering the phase of fully automated, autonomous AI system. Not yet, although every major AI company or tech company is actively working towards AGI, but we're not there yet. Some capabilities, and this is also focusing on AI generative visual content to produce innovative and align brand visuals. And content can actually follow creative briefs. Unlike some people may think AI generated content is very hard it's impossible to follow creative brief or keep the brand identity consistent, which is not necessarily true anymore. As long as you know how to really direct and control these AI systems and make it work for your specific product and brand. Unlimited idea and content generation without budget constraints. This is pretty straightforward. If you are a creative or if you have ever worked in the productions, you will know that production is such a time-consuming, very costly a thing, but within AI, and then all of a sudden we can generate maybe like hundreds of thousands of images within a day, and then you can select all the best images, and you can change the characters, and you can change the set, you can change the props. The possibility is really endless here. Next, AI can be very cost effective for creative work, both saving time and money, and then that's correlated with generating unlimited ideas. Although there are some limitation with generative AI, but overall in comparison to like you have to hire a whole production crew, you have to do a location scouting, and you have to pay the whole set, you have to buy all these props. Relatively, AI can create these things pretty easy. And then this are 1, 2, 3, 4 images I've generated these images for about months ago, and then I did a workshop before this, and I was asking most of the people who had it was a live workshop, so here in SF, so most of the people have not seen my work before. So it was really fun to interact with people that they actually don't know which one is AI generated, and turned out all 4 of these images are AI generated, and then people are pretty surprised how detailed and how well these hands are. So that leads into the first use case for today, stock images. So I did this Instagram survey, and I asked my followers on Instagram, what do they think about these 4 images I just showed? Are they ready to final deliverable for a client? Surprisingly, most people actually said, yes, these looks good, and they would have not guessed these are AI. And a lot of these are very reputable, and the people who I respect their work and words. So I wasn't really expecting this outcome, although maybe my followers are a little bit biased because they follow me for this intersection of AI and creativity. So maybe they are just more for it. Use case number 2 for fashion and accessory brand. So a lot of a business owner are trying to figure out how do we use AI. If they are fashion or accessory brands, how do they use AI? They need models, and how do AI help them to generate images that accurately represent their product? The short answer is, if you are still shooting a real person, like a real life model, now where's your clothing or accessories, and then you just change the background, and that is still accurate representation of your product. For this use case, if for a brand who cares a lot about accuracy of their product representation but still want to leverage the technology, they can choose this use case, which is still shoot a human wearing their product, and then just utilize AI to enhance the background only. And here are some examples, and these photos are taken by this very talented photographer. She works with a lot of celebrity like Kylie Jenner and a lot of big names in the industry and fashion as well. So here is a final images. I enhanced the background. We actually submitted this for an editorial photo shoot for Elle magazine. More examples with AI enhanced backgrounds. And here is use case number 3, graphic design. And Sephora has this virtual events called Sephora. And you can see the image or the graphic design here is not really perfect. You can see some issues with the path, with the colors. It's a little bit messy overall, but it only took me about like 20 minutes to finish this. If you wanted to, and also I am not a graphic designer. If you are a graphic designer, and I always believe if you're already a domain expert, you will always produce a better output when you leverage AI. So I would suggest you vectorize this file, which is a image file, flat PNG, and you can vectorize into SVG file using a technology or a product like Vectorize AI, or Adobe has some tools for vectorizing file too. And after that, you can edit all the path, and you can edit a color, you can do some fine-tuning work to make sure the image looks ready to go. Here is another example. I generated this certificate for my cash camp, the AI-driven product image camp I have for one of my graduates in the past. And I first generated this placeholder, and then I put her image in, and I put a text on top of it with a Photoshop. And you can use Illustrator if that's what you prefer. But you can see, again, like the details is a little bit messy. It's not 100% clean. But as the technology develops and all the little details is going to get refined better and better. And also, if you are a graphic designer, you can always go in and clean it up or redraw some of these lines. But I just want a quick unusual certificate markup. In this case, this was really good for me already. Another use case is for consumer packaging goods. A lot of euphorics or other beverages or cosmetics, all these things has labels and texts is really good with AI-driven methods. And you can see this is iPhone shot. And I turned this into this final image, merged the background images I generated with the iPhone shot instead of Photoshop. And more example, iPhone photo and integrated inside of Photoshop. And you can see the details are good, like the hands are making sense and some of these fruits are looking okay. And this is very high resolution image. You can definitely, by all means, this isn't like perfect image, but still is good enough to use it for some purposes. And this is very high res. If you wanted to print out, if you wanted to project this on a bigger screen, and you can do that. Here are more examples where this is the iPhone shots I've done and turned into a different image with AI generated scene and models holding the products. It's always harder if you have multiple products placements because it's just a lot more time consuming. There's a lot of extra hands and the human you need to tweak, make sure everything looks nice. But you can tell that I am trying to mimic the environment lights and colors by using these colorful backdrops and props I have to create that environment reflections on the product itself. So make sure that way it's a little bit easier to do the Photoshop integration because we have some of these correct color reflections and light source. So here are more images. And this is the one I did just yesterday. And you can tell if you want to zoom in, the finger still looks pretty nice with some correct shadows and everything. And this is really big. You can crop it out and you can see more detailed elements if you want. And this is the original iPhone shot. I put it side by side for you. And you can see with AI, you can really literally have tens of hundreds of images for one scene. And you can really just choose from. There's just a lot of possibilities. And this is only just from one batch. That's why you can see all the elements and the mood, the vibes is very similar. But if you are editing out your text prompt and your whole prompt, and then you can see the possibilities endless. We can have different locations and the model can be different characters and we can have different props, different color palette. So on and so forth. Here are more screen grabs for just one single images. You can really get very detailed shots within just one small image because they're high res enough. Another use case is pop-up experience concept design. And this is actual a venue in SF. I've hosted events here before. These are the original venue image. And I quickly did some mock-up with using AI to fill the space with these wall build-outs with colorful furnitures and with some screens and with some beauty stations. I was imagining this as a concept of maybe a Sephora pop-ups or any other, beauty brands pop-ups. That's why I was comparing, should I do a beauty station situation or should I do some screens so people can do some interactive like survey or whatever. But this particular use case is only really good for the conceptualizing stage, meaning like when you pitch to your clients or your boss the ideas, the different design concept, because this is not going to be a final deliverable when you are doing these pop-ups. If you have any wall build-outs, then you need to hire a 3D artists to make sure everything is recreated accurately within the space. From there, you can do all these wall build-outs if you have the budget. And this is use case for jewelry product. For this specific use case, I use this brand's image. They actually reached out, and then now they're in my past cohort. They reached out and asked if I can help them to utilize AI. Their particular problem is they have a lot of these already shot images. They were wondering if AI can change some of the backgrounds. So I did some test shots. It turned out it's fairly easy. You just needed to remove the background and then make sure generating some images in the similar light and similar color palette, and then merge the product into the backgrounds nicely. You do need to Photoshop some shadows or reflections as needed.
A couple of producers called us and said,
so I want to show you guys this video, even though this is not particularly for AI, but I will let you know why I want to show you this video after.
that, hey, can we make a virtual beach setup? And we're like, yeah, let's go. And this is definitely the biggest Blender setup I've ever had to work with. And look at the scale of this thing. And this is a show where the host pretty much interviews the guest by talking about their favorite books. So nothing more natural than a bookcase setup, library at the beach type of vibes. So we can make this into a live environment. So
okay, I'm gonna stop right there. So the reason I want to show you guys this video is it has been a thing for the major production house and for the major brands like Adidas or Nike. In the past, they would hire these 3D artists to create these beautiful surreal scene, and they project on these big screen where they will have their model in front of it and shoot within it, so that way they can save the locations, they can save a lot of money, and it still looks beautiful, and then they have more control of the environment. The reason I wanted to say that is because you see this video is a 3D rendered sets, but with AI we can totally adopt that, where if you have the room and the space, you can project your AI generated image on the wall. You can shoot your product in front of it. So that way the reflection, the shadow and the colors on your reflected on your product will look more authentic. So that way, when you do the Photoshop integrations, it might look even better because the method I have been implementing is just have colored backdrop to make sure it makes sense. But if you can just shoot the product in front of your AI generated background, maybe if it's good enough, that could be ready to go. But then if you want to Photoshop and then your product already picked up some of the environment lights, and that will make your editing work a lot easier. So this is another use case. AI, so this is from Luma AI. Luma AI has a feature is text to 3D model. So you can see right here, this is a 3D model that's text to 3D model. And then this use case particularly was generated some 3D model for the spaceship, and they projected onto the wall, utilized it as a placeholder before they ask 3D artists to actually render these spaceships in details. So this way they can see, like how it looks within this set for this particular elements before they are hiring another 3D render artist to actually put this into production. So here is exactly the workflow I am currently using, and this workflow might not work exactly for you, depends on what kind of use case and product and brand you have. But in general, this is the workflow I use at the moment. This may change later. So as you can see, I recommend people to start with large language model like ChatGPT for branding research purposes, and that can eventually help you craft the first draft of your text prompt, so we don't have to start a text prompt from scratch. And let's be real, sometimes it is hard to stare at the empty computer, start thinking about the text prompt. It might be hard. So sometimes I utilize ChatGPT to help me with the first draft of text prompt, and then I put it into my image generator. Either you use Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, or DALL-E. If you use DALL-E, obviously it's a lot easier because it's inside of ChatGPT. But if you use other external tools like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney, you can definitely, you can see the arrow is, it's a circle. This means sometimes I do iterations because, like I mentioned, that's the text prompt to ChatGPT will give to you is going to be the first draft, and then oftentimes I have to re-edit on my own instead of these image generation tools. And then if I see the results and I realize, it's not good, and sometimes maybe I'll go back to ChatGPT and edit my text prompt there. So this is the iteration phase. And the next one is also I iterating a couple of times in between these two steps. Once you have fine-tuned your text prompt enough, and then you have some solid images you think you can work with, then the next step is to do the product shoot, like some of the images I have demonstrated before with my iPhone. So the iPhone shots of the products, and you would, based on what kind of background images you have, and then you would shoot your product within that correct perspective, angles, and color palettes. And then after that, and this is also sometimes you have to do back and forth a couple of times. And next will be the image enhancement. This is the optional steps. I really love it just because I do very high fidelity, high resolution images, and I do want to zoom in, like super zoom, to see every single pixels and to see every single fingernails, if they make sense, like the lashes and the eyes and like the teeth and the lips, the hair, the pores on the face. So I'm crazy. That's why I like this tool a lot. I recommend Magnific AI or Korea AI. Those are both image enhancement tool, and just don't just pay attention. Like these tools are image enhancement, and there are also tools that are called image upscale. These is only increasing your image resolution, but without adding any details and enhancement. So make sure if you want to do this step with your images, and if you have models, then you need to further enhance adding details, and make sure you pick a tool like has added details and enhancement instead of just image upscale. And then from here, you can see this step is not reversible from image enhancement to the Photoshop integration for your product. If you don't have a product to integrate, if it's just only AI-driven images without product, and sometimes you can reverse this step, and then you do some Photoshop editing, and then you refine, and then you upload it into the image enhancement tool, and then enhance further, and that's okay. But if you have a product to integrate, this step is not reversible, because like I mentioned before, the limitation of generative AI is not able to recreate your product accurately. And if you are reversing this step, you already add your product in Photoshop with your AI generated background, and you're going back to the image enhancement, it's guaranteed it's going to generate gibberish. It's going to change some of the shapes of your product, especially if you have very smaller texts on your label, or if your product has like an irregular shape, so that's going to mess up your product. And the very last step, this is also optional. If you're a photographer, you really like color grading, then you can color grade after the Photoshop integration in Lightroom or other image editing apps. So quickly gonna cover some of the workflow in details for ChatGPT. I'm not going to go in depth, but overall talk to your ChatGPT like a person, treat it like your new coworkers that you are onboarding. Always make sure you provide enough context, what kind of project you're doing. And if it's new client work, then make sure you do a little bit of research and still stay in the same thread when you're doing the research, and when you're having the conversation with ChatGPT instead of the same thread. The ChatGPT is going to use your research, previous history, and memory of the thread to generating further output for you. So always provide enough context, just like you are talking to your new coworkers. You have to provide that. And instructions, just like you're onboarding either your intern, your coworkers, you need to provide exactly your SOPs, standard operation procedures, what exactly the steps you normally do your project or client work. And lastly, if you have a good template and example of the past work you've done, and then upload it into ChatGPT, just like your coworkers, and provide some sort of this is like the project I've done, like you can review it so they can learn. Same thing like ChatGPT. So these three main thing is very critical when you are prompting instead of ChatGPT. All right, next one I'm going to quickly go over is my Midjourney fine-tuning process with these three models, and it's a little bit long, so I'm going to skip through. Here is a Midjourney fine-tuning image process I'm going to go over. So this is our initial image. I stop here and like, oh, this is good composition, that I can work with it. And you can tell the past, that's also about social scene. So we can go over some of these images, and you can see a subtle difference of the image. Then from here, I was trying to generate slightly difference of images, and I select, you can see the shadow difference and the hands differences from each images. And this is definitely a process. And I always tell my campers or students to, if you are generating a campaign, and then we do have a placeholder, because that way we can save the space for our actual product. In this case, this bottle with placeholder for the actual product. And then we wanted to encourage people to remove the bottle itself, or aka the product itself, within Midjourney, utilizing variation inside of Midjourney first, and try to do that. And then you can always clean up inside of Photoshop when we do product Photoshop integration, but it's always preferred selected area. Otherwise, it's just going to generate different version of the bottle. Started further fine tuning, changed subtle little details of the body gesture was just not right. There isn't really a neck, and it just doesn't look very authentic. So I started painting the woman to a point that I am happy with. I changed her outfit, and I selected this character in the end with this outfit. And then I realized I want to stick with the same color palette for this character's clothes dress for her. And I further try to tweak the fingers as much as I can inside of Midjourney before I move to Photoshop. So did a bunch of other variations of that and selected the best fingers I think I can be easily tweaked inside of Photoshop. So I ended up with something like this. You can see the fingers to take it into Photoshop and image enhancement. Okay. Photoshop. And this is the Photoshop integration. This is the easiest Photoshop integration because you only have one single product. There's not multiple product placement, and there's no humans, just a straightforward still life. So I'm gonna demonstrate that with this video. I may skip through because it's a little long. Photoshop integration for AI-driven product image. First, placing the product onto the AI-generated image. So this is iPhone shot, and you need to carefully select your object, use object selection tools. You may have to fine tune the edges a little bit. And then next you do a layer cut and make sure your product is in the correct area with the correct angle you wanted. You may need to clean up some of the object behind your product so they don't show. And next we do light adjustment. To do that is go to the image adjustment, and then you tweak the curves, you tweak the saturation and the shadows and the highlights and selective colors, etc. until you're happy and satisfied with your product. We needed to do mask layers so we can bring certain elements in front of your product. And here we're using generative fill to further clean up some of the bottle and the glass area, the cap area, and just combination of a object selection tool, or so generally when I use generative fill, we do leave it empty at first, and then if that doesn't work, we'll add a text prompt, and voila, this is the final image. And then that is complete my workflow. And the next, we're gonna quickly go over some case studies. And I want you guys to watch this Coca-Cola commercial that partially is generated by Stable Diffusion, which is AI image. And then this is old commercial, came out like over a year ago already. So some of the technology they use is old, but overall, I really love how they did this commercial with AI. Okay, that's it. Overall, I really love how this turned out, and we can talk a little bit more why in the end. The next case study is the Adobe stock images with generative AI war images, which is obviously a bad use case for so many different reasons. Although some of these images are labeled AI generated content, but some news channels using these AI generated images to report actual events. So that kind of backfired. So in my opinion, this would be not a good use case for documentary style, leveraging generative AI. That's defeating the purpose of the documentary. And this one is actual personal case study. I have this yoga studio send me a newsletter, and I obviously the first said, what the heck is this? You can see everything just looks so messed up. And then I realized, oh, it's AI generated, and this is probably labeled by the technology behind powered this newsletter itself, not really the yoga studio, but this is a proof that we need a human in the loop approach, because I'm pretty sure they didn't even verify or check the images the AI automatically generated for them. If they have, they would not put this image into their newsletter. And this is another case study for, I don't know if you guys have watched this. This basically what happened is this creator was hired creating a lot of UGC styled video content for this AI company, but she wasn't really fully aware what is these data of hers is going to be used. So later on, some of her friends sent forward a video,
so let me get
which
this
is
straight.
this one.
You guys are telling me that when you're out of the house for hours, you're comfortable walking around with all that stanky body odor that's been building up on you all day? What?
This is a AI generated video of UGC style video that is a model that trained on all of these video data she created for this AI company. I'm not sure exactly what kind of contract she signed. She was aware of this AI company, but she's clearly wasn't aware of they're going to utilize, basically license her AI cloned avatar to all these brands, be their like best spoken person. So some of the issues involved with some approach like this is the transparency between this creator and this AI company. I'm not sure what exactly the contract she signed. Maybe she didn't read her contract correctly, but I do feel like as AI company or AI agency, you should triple check if the creator you are hiring or like the person you license their likeness to train your models is fully aware what are you going to use her likeness for. And another communication layer of this is critical is between the AI company and the brand. Make sure the brand is fully aware that what they're doing with this influencer's likeness. In this case, again, I'm not sure the details if the brands are aware of what's happening. And another layer is brand customer facing. So the brand also needed to do some work with the data labelings when they are utilizing these type of videos to promote their product. They should label that as AI generated content, so the consumer is aware of this is AI generated content, so they can make an informed decision when they're purchasing the product. So in my opinion, this is a great technology, but we have to use it very considerately. So there is a way to do this better, in my opinion, which is basically fold this influencer in from the beginning of the whole process, meaning like the influencer needs to, if obviously she needs to be aware of this is what it's going to use for. And when a brand hires her cologne, AI cologne, they need to send her the actual product. She actually need to test out the product so she can be vouched for, or her cologne can be vouched for the product. And then she needs to prove the messages and what is she promoting for. So that way, at least the content is proved by the person whose likeness is being generated used in the promotion. Otherwise, I don't think this is fair either for the consumers or fair for this person who is speaking on whose likeness is being used and promoting other brands' product. And this is the use case we have demonstrated before. And in my opinion, this use case is a really good use case because it is using it as a placeholder. And then for later on, if it looks good with the whole setups, and then they will hire a 3D artist to do it. Although eventually, I assume the text to 3D will become better and better. So eventually, maybe we'll not need to use a 3D artist to create models like this anymore. But at least for now, I think this is a great approach to adopting the technology. The last one is the Levi's clothing model generating news came out early last year. The issues right here is people were arguing Levi's was trying to use AI to increase the diversity, which obviously is not a good intention for utilizing the technology. So I also want to share this use case, this case study here, because this is a issues overall, although with or without AI generated content, AI generated model, this is a issue, like the diversity issue. So for the Coca-Cola, as the reason I really liked it, because it was the storyline made so much sense, and it was hosted inside of a museum. So a lot of these arts are the artists who created these arts already passed away. So there's less of a copyright issue for a big brand like a Coca-Cola. And overall, the whole production was very thought through. They're not only using generative AI technology, they're also filming the real people. They're also involved as 3D artists. So overall, I think that is a great approach to leveraging the technology, but use it that makes sense for your story, align with your brand identity, but also with integrity and respect. Here are some of my campus work, just to prove that it's not just me doing these images, and people who are learning these approaches can also creating very beautiful on-brand images. And these the bottles are from an actual brand. I'm not very familiar with them, but the images looks really beautiful. And this is another campus work. And here is another example of campus work with real life product. And the same thing here. And this is the jewelry, and these jewelries are actually real jewelry. And then the camper actually photoshopped on it with the AI-driven methods I have demonstrated before. So this is the end of this workshop. There are just some quick call to action for you to take away, and you can start implementing AI if you want. So first, discover your own AI-driven use case that makes sense for your brand, your product, while maintaining the brand authenticity and integrity. And this is very important because my use cases I have demonstrated may not work for your brand, may not work for your existing workflow, or may not work for your profession. So that's why you wanted to discover your own use cases. And number two is develop your own AI-driven framework, workflow, and tool stacks. The tool stacks I'm using are ChatGPT, Magnific AI, Photoshop, etc. But that may not be a good tool stack for you because you might be an engineer who's just really good with more techie setups like Stable Diffusion, control nets, and Comfy UI. These things you might find out it's easier for you to use. So you may adopt whole different set of tools. You may not like ChatGPT. You may like open source models, etc. And the same thing with your own framework, because you need to learn how to use these tools and what is the best framework for you. And the next is practice using AI responsibly and ethically, because moving forward, we're going to see tons of AI generated content. Without practicing using it responsibly and ethically, we are never going to have a sustainable, healthy AI generated content ecosystem. But the goal is to have a sustainable content ecosystem, even within AI. And the last one is don't rely on just one tool. Learn how to stitch multiple AI tools together into a system that works for you. That's exactly what I have been preaching. Don't only use one tool because one tool is never going to be giving you the best results. So if you only leveraging one AI tools, you're not leveraging the full capacity and the possibility of the current state of technology. I'm pretty active on Instagram and LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me there. And thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate all of you. All right, bye.